Calling YouTube, calling YouTube, come in YouTube. Thomas, do you have any idea why I'm dressed this way?
Nope.
Nope. Thomas, we are going to watch Dick Tracy this week. Other than the first several times that I've tried to do this intro with you, had you ever heard of Dick Tracy before? Do you know anything about the movie?
No.
Okay, that's good. I think it's probably the best way to go into this because I think that at the time this came out, probably a lot of the kids in the audience had no idea what it was really about anyway. But I'm kind of curious to see how you react to it. So let's fire this up and see how it goes.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Joshua Zeiber, editor of the Video File Movie and Home Theater blog. Welcome to the Film at 11 podcast. My co-host this week is my 11-year-old son, Thomas. Thomas, we just watched the 1990 summer blockbuster Dick Tracy, and I am very curious what you made of this movie. Was this something that you enjoyed, or did you just find it too weird?
I enjoyed it.
You enjoyed it, okay. Before we started recording, I asked you a question, which was, I wanted you to think about what other movie we've watched on this podcast that this one might remind you of somehow. And what was your answer for that?
It reminded me of Batman.
Okay. And why is that?
Because I felt like I had a similar plot to Batman.
Similar plot to Batman. That's what it reminded you of? How is the plot similar?
The structure, like, good guy and then bad guy kidnaps person, and then good guy stops bad guy.
Okay, because it has a good guy and a bad guy, that says, oh, that instantly said to you Batman?
Yeah, definitely got.
Okay, that's interesting. That is actually where I was going with this question. In that, so this movie was released in the summer of 1990, which was 1 year after Batman was released, and it shares a fair number of similarities with Batman. Not the least of which is the musical score by a guy named Danny Elfman. Sounds an awful lot like the Batman score, doesn't it? It really he fairly repeated himself quite a bit in that, but also there's just the sense that this was a very visually elaborate comic book type movie, yes, that didn't try to look realistic at all. It was trying to look like a comic book, or more specifically in this case, a comic strip. I don't know if you understand the difference between a comic book and a comic strip. But back in the day, in newspapers would run comic strips. It would be just a few panels long every day over the course of a week, and you'd get a snippet of a story, and then over the course of the week, you'd get the whole story. And so Dick Tracy, the character, originated in a comic strip way back in the 1930s or 1940s. And so by the time this movie was made, the character had not really been in the public eye for a very long time. But the guy who made this movie, who starred in it and made it, he was an actor named Warren Beatty. He had loved Dick Tracy when he was a kid, and he thought, well, this is a great thing that I want to make. And I want to revive this character and bring him back in what was then the modern day. And so he made this big movie out of it. And like I said, so it had this very comic strip aesthetic to it, where the sets looked like sets. And it also, the things like the colors in the movie were very limited in that they were very bold, and there was only like a handful of colors because they're the colors that you would see in a comic strip printed in the newspaper. So they didn't, it didn't try and look at all realistic. Now, what other notes did you have that I had? Because I had asked you to take some notes on this movie. What else about this movie stood out to you in that vein?
Well, I didn't really understand the guy who was wearing the pink, who they were questioning.
Mumbles?
Yeah.
You didn't understand what he was saying?
No.
Do you think that his name being Mumbles might have something to do with that? Yeah, yeah, he was clearly not meant to be understood. Okay. What else do you got?
It was, why did all the bad guys look weird and
Okay.
have weird faces?
Okay. And I think these two questions are actually related. Because one of the things the Dick Tracy comic strip had been known for was its very cartoony and exaggerated looking characters. And they all had names that were very much that fit the characters. Like guys named Mumbles, he would mumble a lot. And a guy named Littleface had a little face. He literally had a little face. And there's a guy named Flat Top whose head was flat. So that was one of the famous things about the comic strip. And this movie had some very elaborate makeup effects to make the actors look that way. And a lot of the actors in this movie were actually very famous actors who were known for doing serious dramas, and they didn't usually make, comic strip type movies like this. But Warren Beatty, the main star, had basically he called up all of his friends and asked them to be in this movie with him. Now, the one thing Warren Beatty didn't do was put on a lot of makeup himself. And that took a little bit of criticism at the time because the Dick Tracy character, as drawn in the comic strip, had literally a square nose and had a very square jaw. And they had a very distinctive profile and was often seen in the comic strip from the side, and you would see his square nose and his square jaw. And Warren Beatty decided that he didn't want to do that himself. He just made everyone else do it, but he wouldn't do it himself because he was kind of known for how handsome he was. And he's like, well, he didn't want to affect that as far as him being the lead character. He still wanted to look handsome. But meanwhile, he called up all of his very famous friends, and they were much more game to play along with this, and they got into some very very extensive makeup effects. And so some of the people who are in this, I don't know how many of them you recognize because they're probably not in a lot of movies that you watch, but Big Boy Caprice, the lead villain, his name is Al Pacino. He's quite famous for a lot of things, but one of them at this time he was known for is being in a gangster movie called The Godfather. You've heard of The Godfather, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was very famous for being in The Godfather, which is a famous gangster movie. So he was sort of playing off that. But his character in The Godfather wasn't quite as goofy as this version. He went very over the top in this. There's another guy in this named James Caan. He'd also been in The Godfather with Al Pacino. He played one of the other gangsters. The Mumbles is Dustin Hoffman. He's an Oscar-winning actor. He was quite famous as well. And meanwhile, he's in this movie with a lot of makeup on, and he's literally talking so you can't hear him. So that was it was fun for audiences of the day who recognized all these actors to see them come in and then play something that they were not known for playing. All right. What else who else did you actually recognize in this movie? Did you recognize anyone?
No.
No. Not even Breathless Mahoney?
Not really.
No, you didn't recognize Madonna? Wow. Yeah, I'm just kind of baffled that you didn't even recognize Madonna. Okay. Did you like the kid?
He was okay.
He was okay? Just okay? Because I gotta say, he made me think of you. And why would that be? Could it be the fact that every other line out of his mouth is, when do we eat? When do we eat? When do we eat? When do we eat? That really makes me think of you, Thomas.
I was hungry.
You're always hungry, yes. Okay. So, overall, for our podcast rating system here of a W or an L, where would you rate this?
W.
You would rate it a W. Now, is this a strong W or as your brother Joseph often says, a mid W? Or like, how much did you enjoy this movie?
It was more of a weak W, but...
Just a weak W. I would have thought that at the very least you'd have liked all the shooting and the action scenes.
Yeah, I did.
There's quite a bit of that in this.
I did. I liked those parts.
Okay. Yeah, because when this movie was released, like I said, Dick Tracy as a character hadn't really been something that kids of the day knew all that well. But Warren Beatty tried to bring him back, and this was marketed extensively to kids. They had like Dick Tracy I think they had Dick Tracy meals at Burger King, and they had Dick Tracy action figures, and it was everywhere. They tried to make this. They tried to make this the next Batman. But I think kids of the day didn't know who Dick Tracy was, whereas they all knew who Batman was. And so it was a hit, but it wasn't that big of a hit. And so yeah, even now we're even further removed from that. I was just curious how it played for you. But so you liked it. But, like, how would you compare this to the Batman movie?
It was okay compared to that one.
You like Batman better?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, did you have anything else you wanted to add for this? Okay, so you've rated it a W. I think we can wrap it up there then. I just wanted to say, Thomas, you're 1 in a million, kid. If you enjoyed this content, like, share, subscribe, and visit videophileblog.com for a grown-up take on movies.
Like and subscribe.
Kid, you're 1 in a million.